Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker here with a Japanese green, getting ready to get it started. Now Japanese greens are, you often have to use a lower water temperature. This water's been brought to a nearly early boil, I should say it that way. A little bit lower, but I generally try to do that with many of the Japanese greens that I look at. You also notice that I'm using a bit different, tea equipment that is more suited to this particular tea. I could have used a Chinese gawan, I could have used a tasting cup, but to kind of move to a more culturally consistent steeping or equipment, preparation equipment, I'm going with this Japanese style teapot. I'm adding enough water, and I'm adding it slowly, hoping that this gets cool. Now, if your water is not cool enough, if you're concerned about the temperature of the water, what you can often do is, when you have a pitcher like so, pour your water from your kettle into your pitcher. General rule can be when it feels, when it's not too hot to the touch, then you can pour into your teapot there. So I'm going to let that steep briefly, because we don't need to let it go as long, because it's a more delicate Japanese green. This is, as I was saying, from TeasofJapan. You can find, that's the website that has the French and English versions, if that's important to you. This is their Kamairi cha, which is a pan-fired. It's more, in some ways it's considered a more ancient and older style. It's more similar to the styles that were coming from Chinese teas that were early introduced into Japan. So this is their, let me get this right, this MinamiSayaka cultivar. You can get 100 grams available currently, time of posting here, $18.61. This is from the Takachiho village that is in Miyazaki Prefecture. That's in Kyushu, which is the very near the extreme southern part island of Japan. This is a first spring harvest of 2012. So in a month to less than 3, we should be looking forward to the 2013 harvest. This is, and I was saying, this is the MinamiSayaka cultivar, not always the most commonly heard of, referred to cultivar of Japanese teas, green teas in particular. So I'm going to go ahead and pour here. I should go to my dry leaf, but I'm going to pour this first. I think it's steeped plenty long already. Nice raw. A lot of people you may see giving a kind of rocking motion. That's supposed to kind of help this sloshing around, let the tea leaves kind of consistently get distributed, the liquor flow through better, so that all the loose, the smaller leaf portions don't just gum up and clog up your spout, even though there's a filter in there, a strainer in there. And then you can shake out those last few drops there at the end. So I'm going to get to move quickly now, so I can also get to the wet leaf before it cools off too much. But dry leaf here, you have those common characteristics of Japanese green teas. You have a strong vegetal component. You've got a kind of spinachy aspect there. Nice, rich, sweet spinach. You also have a tinge of a citrusy lemon peel kind of note, but it's more towards the back. I'm not getting a lot of marine, fishy type, iodized type elements, so that's not a lot of mineral hints just yet. Looking at these leaves, they are not, I mean, if you compare them to Essentia, Gyokuro, you will find very thin, spindly, fine filament-like components. But this is a bit closer to the kind of wrapped, twisted leaves that you might find in a Chinese green tea. Although these are quite fine, They are a nice, deep, rich green-blue, or blue-green, rather. It's green with moving over towards a rich, darker, almost bluish kind of aspect to it. Again, those fill up those leaf portions. In many cases, are less than 1 inch in length, but still looking quite delicate, especially as compared to, say, a Chinese green that might be treated the same way. You're not seeing a lot of needles per se or buds aspect at this point. So already poured off, so now I can also kind of move on here to the wet leaf. Give this a sniff. Now, because this was pan-fired, there's some of that already being evidenced. There is a roasty component to it, so it's still got the spinachy notes, but as if that spinach had been braised or roasted or toasted, or maybe some pine nuts or some a light nutty had been tossed into the pan and cooked with it, so that you do get that nutty aspect plus the spinachy aspect there. Okay, looking at these leaves, I'm going to pull a few out and just rest them on top of my lid here. Get a pinch here. You can tell that these are delicate, thin, younger leaves. They're not thicker, coarser, heavy. These are easily torn, quite fragile actually. A lot of cases, you're looking at portions of leaves. You still see a little bit of the middle of the vein going on in some of these leaf portions here. They're not the most fragile, delicate. Like I said, there's still no evidence of any kind of tip or needle. These are young, but complete, or they were complete leaves. So, going on from there, let me give this a swirl. Now, because my temperature was probably a little bit higher than what you may look for, and because I steeped it probably a little bit longer than what you might do at home, I would actually kind of recommend a lighter temperature, a shorter steep. But with this, I get a nice, rich, deep yellow. You still get a lot of the filament, a lot of the particles floating around in the liquor here. Still that's spinach, cooked spinach kind of smell. Sweet though, rich, sweet spinach. Not something that's been put in the freezer for months, but this is fresh, sweet. Now, having steeped this, like I said, a little bit longer in time, a little bit heavier in temperature, astringency comes out more, but it is not still, in comparison to other teas that I might treat with the same conditions, this one still has less astringency, which is a positive note. You will detect this astringency, but it's not over the top. It doesn't really go into it doesn't go towards bitterness. It's still astringent at first, but then in the back you get a nice, rich, still brothy coating on especially in the back of my mouth, moving down in my throat as well. This just feels rich. So it's still, and the aftertaste, along with being rich, is sweet. So I'm getting this kind of mouth-watery, again, heavy kind of salivation, a heavy kind of brothy feel. Yet it's heavy. It's sweet. So, and this tasting and off-camera tastings, not only is it rich and sweet, but it stays that way. It's got a nice long aftertaste, a nice duration. So those are positive notes. When I look at this tea, and because off-camera tastings and this tasting, even though I push this tea a little bit harder here, it still performed well. It's not one of those it's still high quality, not easy to mess up because because it's got good fundamentals. So I would give this tea a 92. Excellent quality, an enjoyable tea, especially if you lean towards more of the kind of the toasty notes in a Chinese green tea, but you like some of the flavor or the flavor components of a Japanese green. This one sits right there in the middle, bringing some of the best of those both cultures. So come back to Walker Tea Review to find the best of what that combination of the best things that you're looking for in a tea.